welcome to this podcast on website management, website maintenance, SEO, and content marketing. We have really beautiful people. You can see their names right there. And we'll be asking a few questions on how and what we can do if you're joining the website team, the SEO team, or the content marketing team. So firstly, to all of you all, thank you so much for being here. And my first question to all of you together is going to be, how do all your roles come together in any kind of website management or whatever you guys do in terms of your roles, but how do all of these things come together as a sync?
Cool. So basically what happens is the website is more like the central point, right? SEO, content, even a lot of our efforts that go into email marketing, a lot of that ties down finally to the website. So when it comes to SEO and content, we are looking at first the SEO team probably giving them the content team some keywords to work on, basis which the entire content piece is written after client feedbacks that comes through to the website team, and of course the website team then uploads it. How that impacts the website is that in the end it's the keywords over there that help us rank on SEO. And in the end, they also help us in build that experience for the visitors, and that's where all of it ties together, right?
Okay.
And of course, there's a lot of internal back and forth, but there is some coordination with the clients that comes in. That's where account managers come into play to ensure that timely delivery is happening. We are clear with the briefs that are coming in, and it's actually all tying in together. To an extent, there's also some coordination with the solutions team. Sometimes we try to sync up with our content blogs that are going up. Let's say the Holi is coming up, Diwali is coming up, a blog is going on for festive care. Then probably that can also be linked onto social media. A post can go up linking to the blog. So quite a few things can happen here.
I'd just like to continue from a content perspective. That yes, what Aditya said is very true, that keywords and SEO plays a very important role as far as content is concerned. But another thing which we often overlook and that's equally important is understanding the brand tone of voice across the various marketing collaterals and staying true to the same tone even on the website. So you obviously cannot have a brand speak a certain way on social media, or have a certain image in their advertising and marketing and then have a completely different language on the website. So that's where I think content plays a dual role. It's also about the brand language and tone of voice, and at the same time, obviously there is SEO, which plays a huge role as well.
Right. I'd like to also talk about the structure that's there. So Aditya and I are account managers, Bonzi being the account head, Mrigang being the SEO head. So what comes into picture is each client has an account manager, that's the client facing person, and every time it depends if the client's a retainer, it's a project-based client. There are certain briefs that come to us. Obviously, there are executives and teams that work under Bonzi and Mrigang, and we all have both Aditya and I have teams across website maintenance, SEO, content, and email marketing. Our job is to make sure that all four marketing angles are in sync, they're in tandem, and there's no discrepancy between anything. We make sure that our SEO is supporting our website, content is supporting SEO, making sure that SEO team gives a monthly update to the website team saying these are your technical errors, they do a UI UX audit saying that this is working, this is not working. They give content advice saying that this content piece can get better, making few changes, alterations, or adding certain keywords. This is when it comes to SEO. However, even when we put out a certain content on the website, we make sure that it's vetted through the SEO team. We make sure that the keywords are right. We make sure that it's SEO friendly, because in the at the end of the day today, apparently the truth in the world is what comes in the first 10 results on Google. So we make sure all these marketing aspects are in sync, are together, because in the end, just adding to what Aditya said, our aim is to drive maximum traffic to the website. It could be an e-com website, it could be a brand page, but our ultimate motive is to get more views and sessions on the website. And that's how SEO and content and even email marketing for that matter, we make sure it's speaking the same language, it's not different. And exactly why Schbang helps, because it's very, very integrated, and especially because we also have clients that are with us for solutions. So we make sure our social media team and our website team are always speaking the same language, and there is at no point there is some wrong communication or different form of communication going out.
Yeah, you know, like one of the things I often see is that a lot of these various elements around the website are usually not in sync with each other. So for any business whose website is sort of the core focus or a central point for where they want to talk to their consumers, it's important for the website to be managed and maintained well. It's important for that website team to be able to ensure that the website is loading properly. It's important for the website team to ensure that there are no glitches on the website, to constantly keep checking it. It's important for the website to have fresh content in, which is where Bonsi's team comes in. It's important for the website to have a healthy SEO score and ensure that the right kind of keywords are implemented via content. And this is what actually allows this is what actually differentiates Schbang from how you work in different agencies. Here you have an integrated team that's actually talking to each other. So these guys usually interact with each other through the day, or their teams interact with each other through the day, and they're working as one cohesive team instead of individual teams. And that's where we're able to make an impact on our clients' website, because you're not sort of having cross-agency interactions. If there's a problem with the website, the SEO team can instantly raise it. The SEO team can instantly raise it with the website. If there's something that needs to be changed from a content point of view, Bonsi can immediately give that direction. Hey, this content's wrong. We need to make this correction and we need to give it out. Right. So yeah, that's, if anyone who's coming and joining this side of the business, you get the option, you get the opportunity. You have the option to work across either content, SEO, managing the website, strategizing for it. How do we create engagement on it, or work in the email marketing side of it, or the direct marketing where you're able to create various touch points to gather database. But you have the opportunity to work across all of this and work with these various departments.
Got it. So I mean, now that I understand what you guys are doing in terms of in tandem, so probably you looking at it from a client side. So a client comes with a brief. Now, who are the people who are there on the call in this team? Who are the people who are there on that particular call? How do you distill that brief from the client's end into your own teams or within yourselves?
Our team collectively is called the Business Transformation Team, and we have a business development team for our entire team. And so what we do is we get the solutions person on the call. We have Charmin, who heads the business transformation team, on the call. It's me or someone from the SEO team who ideally would like to ask few questions to the client, understand what their business objective is in terms of requirement, what keywords they want to go after, and who their competition are, who they look up to, or who they want to outrank, for example. Take all of those things into consideration, get our answers, and then start working on a website audit, and then go from there. So there are steps too once you start with the audit. Right. You look at the technical aspects of things of the website. You look at the pages, and if the content on the pages are mapped with the right kind of keywords. Then you look at the link profile of the website. Link profile is something so it's like this, right? How many other good authority websites in your niche are recommending your content from their pages? That is what for us that becomes a link profile. So there are like 4 or 5 different stages in SEO too, and we go through all of that, and then we come up with a cohesive plan.
Yeah. Just to add to that, once sort of like you rightly said, right, Charmin sort of is closing the business and bringing it in. I think the first step is actually, first there's an account manager that's actually assigned to that particular brand and business.
Yes.
Okay. That based on the services that client has actually availed, various members from either Bonsi's team or from Nugang's team, and either that particular brand or business is allocated to either Aditya or Bhumi's team, because they are the account managers, and then they have their web strategists that are there under them. The account is then allocated to one of those guys. So what happens is one of the account managers is usually driving the overall business conversation. You then have various members from the respective departments. So you have someone from content who's joining in on the induction call. You then have someone from the SEO team joining the induction call. You have someone from the website team joining the induction call. And if there's email marketing or direct marketing, you have someone from that team sort of joining the induction call. And overall understanding what is it that we want to now achieve. I know a lot of this is sort of clarified during the pitch phase, but during the pitch phase also what we can do for them. So it's important for, once that brand has been allocated, it's important for this team to also get important to understand what is it that you want to achieve over your short-term goals and your long-term goals. So the team then sets out a plan, a roadmap for, hey, these are the short-term goals. Here are the things that we'll set out to do. SEO team will end up doing their audits and say, hey, these are your competitors. These are the kind of keywords, and this is what we should be having. And here is what our short-term goal is, and here is what our long-term vision is like. And then the content team also works in tandem with the SEO team and creates some of their own plans on how to drive more engagement or spend more time on the website. So once a business comes in, this is essentially the overall process that needs to be followed.
Got it. And for example, if somebody is joining us, like for somebody who's watching this or somebody wanting to join us, if they're wanting to join into the account management team, this is more towards you guys, what are the key tools that you use that enables this kind of development across the board?
So there are various tools when we come to analytics, and they serve different purposes. So when it comes to the most basic one would be, of course, Google Analytics, right? That gives us an overall view of what is happening on the website. Live views tell us a lot of things, but we look at the consumer behavior on the website. We try to understand which blogs are performing, which kind of page is giving us more drop-offs, what has a higher bounce rate. So all of that comes through from GA. But at the same time, we also have tools like SEMrush, which is specific to SEO and tells us about how the competition is doing, what are the kind of keywords we should look at. Adding on to that is SimilarWeb, which is again going deeper into understanding a competition, because that tells us overall. Let's say if I were to compare one of our brand's website with 4 of its competitors, it will tell us the kind of traffic someone is getting, the kind of keywords that they are tracking and they are working on, and where we can catch up to, and along with other small KPIs like pages per session, bounce rate, and overall traffic to the website down to the minute details. All of that comes through from SimilarWeb. There's something called Microsoft Clarity, which is very similar to, what's the name I'm forgetting, for heat map.
For Hotjar.
Hotjar. So it's very similar to Hotjar, where we try to understand on-site behavior, where someone is clicking on the website, how far they are scrolling down, and basis that we start coming up with more recommendations on, okay, we need to move this content up, we need more CTAs over there, this CTA is not getting enough attention, it's not getting clicked. So all of that comes through from MS Clarity or Hotjar.
Aditya, sorry, is Microsoft Clarity a free or a paid version that someone can just sign up when they come on board?
I think you can sign up and
sign up and just move forward. Right? So it's Microsoft Clarity. You don't need to necessarily subscribe to it. You can actually just attach. You can just link your website to it and then sort of.
Yes, actually, all of these tools are free to an extent. Google Analytics is absolutely free. You can go to GA360, which is a paid version, more for enterprise plans. But when it comes to any of these tools that I've mentioned, they all have a free plan to just begin with, understand how the tool works, and then you can get into the more premium tools, like say for example all of those points that I mentioned for SimilarWeb. In the beginning you will only probably get some KPIs, you may not get into in-depth keyword research over there, but to get that in-depth analysis you'll have to subscribe further, and then that gives you the more juice that you need, and most of the times of course it's useful, that's why it's there.
Got it. So I mean, a question, sorry to cut you off, but just a question. So am I supposed to learn these tools before I join Schbang, or am I going to get support with the help of Schbang to learn these tools?
So Actually, it's a good question you asked me because I don't come from a technical background. I come from a PR and a marketing, brand management background. So when I joined Schbang, I obviously learned how to get these insights. It's not rocket science. There are a lot of courses also on Google Garage which help you through these research and tools that help you understand your website better. I also want to add on to what he said is there are tools that obviously help you give you insights on how your website's performing. There are various tools that tell you how your SEO is doing, how your content's doing, but there are also plugins that help you enhance your current website and enhance your consumer behavior. And it depends on what your website's based on. So Shopify has multiple plugins that help you with even direct marketing. So there's Push Owl, where we send out push notifications on your desktop, which help us get more traffic onto the website. There are various direct marketing plugins that we can use to send out automations, send out order confirmation. We can send out any marketing campaign that we want to send out. So while yes, there are tools that help you give insights, there are a lot of other tools that help you understand where and how to target your audience and make it more crisper. It is more because there are a lot of AI tools as well that we use. So speaking of AI, there are certain things we're working on right now with the content team is where there's a tool called Recreate, where we convert our blogs into videos. So there are people who don't like reading. So if we have an integrated video where they choose to not read the blog, but they want to just hear it out, we can do that as well. So there are a lot of plugins as well that enhance your websites, that can make it look better, that makes your consumer journey easier. To be honest, it's not something you need to have special skills to understand. There are always tutorials that are there. Most of these also give you demos. So there's a team which particular tool or plugin would have, where they remove some time, they take you through the whole plugin and explain you how it's going to help you. And obviously there are always some customer relation or people who can guide you through certain process. So it's very simple, especially for someone who even doesn't belong to any kind of analytics or any kind of technical background. It's something you can always learn on the job, and it's pretty easy, to be honest.
What's interesting is that what I hear her say is that someone who's joined, like for this team, is always on a lookout for some tool, plugin, always sort of learning a new tool or a plugin. And this question sort of is across to all of you guys. Which ones, and while I understand that someone may not necessarily have that tool or that particular analytics or insights platform knowledge, but which ones would you say are core or the must-knows once you join this, or if you already have this, what is it that you should know when you're joining this? Because there are some that are common across all these verticals. Which ones would you say are the must-knows out of all?
So for me, for the SEO team, I would really need, so I understand that analytics, you need to have a website to access the analytics, and not a lot of freshers, for example, who must be coming into this entire ecosystem might have their own website to work on. But knowing what analytics does, knowing how to just go about the analytic tool, and knowing how to use Google Search Console.
Not only knowing, but reading it also.
Yes,
seeing what is there and then understanding it.
When I say knowing, I mean to navigate through the tool and what information it gives and how it helps the website. This knowledge is really important for me, for someone to have if that person wants to come in the SEO team.
Do you mean how to interpret the?
Yeah, I mean, read about it. There's n hours of online, as Bhumi said. There are n number of videos out there, tutorials out there, which help in all languages, to help people understand what these tools do, and just interpreting those tools and being able to navigate those tools once you come in. That knowledge is important, in my opinion.
Correct.
So for Google especially, I believe Google has like a Google Academy where you can get certified in certain things, especially something like a GA or Google Ads, many more. Google themselves give you that certificate. Okay, you've gone through this course, you've gone through the assessment, you know a certain level, you get the certificate that you know this. So I believe that would be one thing that someone should definitely look at. That will give you the basics. But like Mrugang said, just knowing the tool is not enough. I understand that you don't have the website to read the data, get a lot of different types of data, but just go through blogs, just go through website learnings from different people, and definitely go through that academy course, because that is going to build the base, and then knowing the tools, and then it comes down to you and how you interpret the data.
Correct. I think what must-haves are GA for sure, also understanding your paid speed insights. These are very basic, very basic. If you just go on to it, if you go on page insight, put a URL of any website you want to know, and you get an insight of how the pages are performing. You understand the load speed time, you understand if the core web vitals are in place, if there's any technical issue. These are very easy to use tools. GA, like I said, you need a website, your own website, and there are certain codes that need to be added. Only then you can access it. You cannot pick a website out of internet and go on their GA insights. But something like paid speed insights, very easy to access. Something like
GT metrics.
G-metrics.
So GT metrics will actually, there's one new update that has come in page speed insights. So page speed insights will give you 28 days, 1 month average now. But GT metrics will actually give you real-time performance of that site, and it will give you a complete report of what are the kind of things that you need to fix. It will go, in fact, about GT metrics, you don't even need to have a pro account to access a lot of things. If you have just signed up with them, you log into that account and you keep going through and run a test on a single link, it will keep the entire history. So let's say if I have run a test on a website link in Jan and I'm running it now, I still have the Jan data through till now, and I can compare and see what happened when, and say, okay, this time we made this change, this impacted badly, we need to revert back, we need to see what the issue is. So
these are certain tools like these should have basic knowledge. But
for website, like I mean, if you're going into website, I believe SEO also, GT metrics and page speed insight, definitely we missed that. That is a very important part.
I have a question for Bonzi. When it comes to content marketing and content writing, are there certain tools or plugins or anything that you feel that's something people should have certain knowledge about?
So I think, see, I'm a bit old school when it comes to content, in the sense that yes, I know there are plugins, I know there are tools that help people, and while that's great, I think with content it's essentially very important to read.
Correct.
Right, because I mean, it's surprising that I'm saying this, but it's true. Like, I have a lot of people who apply, and then when I interview, they tell me that, I mean, my basic question is, do you read, and what do you read? And the answer is generally like, you know, I just read when I feel like it, or I read sometimes, and for me that is kind of not a great situation to be in, because I feel like you have to be a voracious reader if you call yourself a writer of any sort. Having said that, not just blogs, not just websites, you have to read across the board. Like, you have to have that kind of curiosity where, you know, if you go, like, it's a very random example, but even if I just, you know, step into someone's washroom and I see an interesting looking package, I turn around and I read what's written on the back. Because for me, the brand language also resonates on the packaging. Right? So I think that's very important. At the same time, I think what also happens is, generally lifestyle content is very easy to write. Like, you know, when you talk about hair, or you talk about skin, or you talk about things like that. So people generally think, oh, it's more effortless, and you know, why don't, but they don't realize that specialized content is where you kind of can form a niche and you can really make a name for yourself. If you're good in one specific domain and you kind of crack that tone of voice, crack the writing style of that entire industry. Say, for example, it's pharmaceuticals, or you know, it's technology. You can really kind of ace your game there, because you know your competition is also much lower. They're always looking out for writers, you know, in that domain, and so are we, because we do have a lot of clients as an agency, right? For example, tech is one of our core specialities. So when a client comes to us with that kind of requirement, they also expect the content writer to have that level of specialized knowledge to be able to write that content.
What are your views on AIs that create content? Like, it's not, you probably put in certain keywords and then you get a whole long form or short form of content.
It's good. I think it's always helpful. However, I think there was something that Sohil said to me in the beginning and that kind of stuck with me. Just like you, I don't come traditionally from a content writing background per se. I come from a writing background. So I've been a journalist earlier, I've done a stint in advertising, I've done a stint in creative writing as well as publishing, right? And my initial apprehension was, I'm not so great with tools and, I don't understand a few things. One of the things that he said was that at the end of the day, like SEO, everything, ranking, everything's important, but you don't write for algorithms.
Correct.
You don't write for Google search engine, you write for your reader.
Correct.
Right?
That's true.
And that essentially stays, it's like a common principle no matter what the means. Right?
That's true.
So I feel any AI tool is great, you should know about it, but it shouldn't stunt your growth as a writer.
And I think that also there's a personal touch to writing content yourself. So
And my other fear is content writers will become redundant. Won't they? If everyone can manage with an AI tool, right?
So you brought up an interesting point, right? That something that we spoke about, saying you don't, when you write content, and Mrugang, you can add in here because there's a lot bit of SEO and you guys too can, that you don't write for algorithms, you don't write for sort of your client, you don't write for machines, you actually write for your reader. What do you think the content writers sort of joining this team, what is the kind of knowledge they should have, what is the kind of mindset they should have when they're joining you?
So for me, I think what has been most important, and this is always, they should have the will to learn. So while I know a lot of people who've come into me, during interviews and said that I am not very sure if I can do this, but I'd love to do it. I don't know if I can write medicine, I don't know if I can write tech, I don't know if I can write pharma, but I'd love to do it and I'm willing to learn. So I think that is I think the attitude, the right attitude, and this is something I think you'd all agree with. Having said that, I think have a certain journey in mind. Don't come with a completely blank slate saying that, you know what, I'm okay to just go with the flow. Tell me that these are the kind of brands I would like to work on. These are the brands I'm interested in. So say for example, we have an intern who's just come in and, she comes from an engineering background. So she was really clear that I want to club in my strength with, the kind of clients that you have and try and work on something. Going ahead, I'd be willing to try other stuff. So we've given her more of our, engineering, technical, those sort of bits to write. So I think clubbing your life experience or your interest, and obviously, I cannot emphasize this enough, your basic grammar skills have to be in place.
Yeah, I think that's important, right? Like having a keen interest in what you're doing and sort of having a forte, because a lot of the content that your team writes is long form content. You're usually writing content in 500, 600 words plus, going up to 1200, 1500 words. A lot of times SEO team needs cornerstone articles. So it's important when you have a keen interest in engineering, you're able to, if you already know that, you're then able to put them on a brand that actually talks about either IT or either that talks about tech, and then you can get the best out of them. And they also are able to understand that subject better and able to churn out relevant copy. Mrugang, coming to you, what do you think you need from, let's say, from an SEO when it comes to content, or from a content person? What are the sort of must-have skills that you think you need from an SEO person?
See, tone and grammar aside, that is Bonsi's, Bonsi's there to take care of, and the management in her team, the senior people in her team are there to take care of that. But then other than that, I think, as you said, we write for the readers, and Google also is looking for...
Is one of the readers.
Yeah, no, not really. Google is a judge, you can say, over here.
Yeah.
But it wants you to write in, for the reader to ensure that his search intent is completely met on your page for those keywords. So what I would like for someone, an SEO is coming new to the team, or new content writers trying to join, is just like, you know, look at a piece of content and ask themselves that, is it like, you know, as a user, is it enough? Am I covering everything, all the subtopics that the user might be interested in, or am I leaving something out just because the word count is met, right? So that is something, that is the, like, you know, eye that someone needs to have when it comes to, like, and also what the competition is doing. Is if the competition is doing a little more than what we are doing, covering a little more subtopics than what we are covering, and if it is helping them rank for their main money keyword on the first page, I would like to, like, so A is research and B is and like intent-based content writing is very important.
Got it.
Can I add something here which probably would help both people joining the content team or the SEO team is, and that's a account manager's perspective here, that content creation and SEO always go hand in hand, but what we've realized over a period of time is different form of content help SEO a lot. So there are blogs, there are infographics, there are videos. So the more creative you are with the way you put out your content, the more it helps the SEO team. And it's very interesting that sometimes there are certain recommendations that come from the SEO team, say, oh, why can't we make this into an infographic? Or there's sometimes where the content team says, you know, what's the long form content, why don't we turn it into a video so that it'll even help in terms of SEO. So I think when someone is working in the content team or the SEO team, what both the teams need to really concentrate on is how are we putting it out. Yes, it is for the users, but it needs to be SEO friendly, not in your face SEO friendly, not in a technical way, but in a very, how do you do it creatively, and how do you not sound dry while doing that. I think that's something that we've realized working over a period of time, that balance of both is very important, and that's exactly why a content team and a SEO team, they work hand in hand. There's never a time there they do not know what the other person's doing. So,
so actually that's very interesting, because when you say creatively, so what is the kind of creative energies one should bring to the table, especially when they're joining a tech team? Right, we have this notion that I'm in tech and I don't know if I need to be creative at all. So what are the kind of creative energies one should bring with?
So I'd like to, there's an example I'd like to bring is the Rio blood report we made. Rio pads are a feminine hygiene product, and for them, there was this whole blood report we made, which Schbang obviously backed, and there was a lot of research that Schbang did for the brand, and that's one of the best form of content and SEO amalgamation that I have seen honestly in a very long time, where it has research, it has what people want to read, what people want to know. It's a long report, but also people would be intrigued in reading it because the way it's written. There are infographics, there are pictures, there are just bullet points, there are long it's a mix of everything you can do with content and everything you can do with SEO. I think that's a best case study to have, because honestly with that, I think both the SEO team and content team and Schbang's research team have done the best job, I feel.
Got it. To add to what she said about this particular campaign, most importantly, the entire piece of content, it's very unique.
Right.
It's not rehashed content. It's, as she said, researched content. It's got we got help from the client's end too. They gave us like some very cool stats and numbers that not a lot of people might have even heard of before. So
and for a client to have those numbers in place, I think that's also very important.
Yeah. So unique. Everyone keeps talking about unique content, but a lot of I've seen a lot of websites just kind of rehash their content from like 5 pieces of content, mix them together, change the tone, and that's it. But that's being creative. The Riopad approach was really creative.
Right, interesting.
So this was a very good question, because I recognize that this is something we have not discussed at all, but there are actually developers and UI UX designers within the team, and even the web strategists, SEO team, content, they're actually always looking for something creative to do. So for example, when I'm talking about content, I always have the content team coming up to me like, okay, this we have a festival coming up. How can we make this tie into the current campaigns? Are there campaigns going on? How do we spin it around and have a banner on the website? How do we tie it all together? When it comes to SEO, the team is always on the lookout for how we can get new forms of content out there. It doesn't always have to be blogs. It can be footer content. It can be content going on to different kind of landing pages or even category pages. So that always keeps coming forward. And major thing that we always look at is, let's take an example of Apple. You go to Apple's website and you look at any single landing page. I mean, you look at AirPods, iPad Pro, they are mind blowing, and that is creativity at its best, I would say, because the kind of experience you have on that page is immersive, and you're just like, you don't want to leave that page because you want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
That's actually an amalgamation of all the teams that we're sitting
Yes.
and talking about
Yeah,
over here, because there's a good play of content, there's a good play of sort
UI,
of
UX.
technology,
UI,
there's a good play of UI, UX, there's a good play of SEO, because none of it is sort of images, they're all HTMLized, they're all optimized for the right kind of keywords, they're all optimized. They talk about keywords like performance, they use words like 3x, they use words like long battery life. I mean, they're using the right sort of kind of keywords also. So it's sort of one of a very good example that you mentioned, an amalgamation of all these departments that actually come together to deliver a better experience to the customer. Talking about content, there are, Bonsi, in your team today, there's a content writer, there is a content strategist, or a content manager, and then there is you. Talk us a little bit about the difference in role of each of these and what role each person plays.
Sure.
And what different teams do they interact with also?
Can I just butt in one small thing?
Please.
Sorry. So again, one more thing we forgot in the whole Apple thing. We talked about UI UX, but also the creativity that came in from the developers when building that.
I was literally
because
thinking
that page would not have been possible without the developers. We have tried building such pages where we are trying to do it, and having attempted something like that, I know how difficult it is for the developers. So a lot of creativity comes in from them over there. Their skill comes into play. So can't underplay that. That page would not be possible without the developers.
I want to add to that. You said like, what is the creative side of tech? The core of it is coding, and a lot of people think that coding is set in a set rule or something. But to be honest, coders are the most creative people we have at Schbang right now, because the kind of a small code can just make a website look very, very, very different. So your creativity starts even at something just so technical. There's nothing that's set in. It's a set rule. I mean, our developers really try hard and to be more creative. They have their research that they do. So yeah, I mean, even something that's so technical can always be creatively infused.
Got it. So actually, if you are a developer, you can check out the Developers Podcast. We have linked it down as well.
Yeah.
So
Good plugin.
Yeah, that's a plugin that we need to have. Anyway, going back to Bonsi and
So Bonsi, coming back to my question, as a content writer, if you are inclined towards joining the content team, or if you're someone who's just joined the content team, what are there are content writers. What is the team structure look like, or the composition look like, and what are the different teams that they interact with?
Sure. So at present we have 3 junior writers. What they do is they create most of our content for all the brands. You know, each of them are client facing in the sense that they interact with the clients when required. Otherwise, they interact regularly with our account managers to understand the requirement of the client. We have an intern, like I mentioned, who's just joined. That's another thing I'd like to say. If there are interns who are interested in starting off at Schbang, we are a fast growing team. So we are looking for, you know, talented writers to kind of come on board if we like their work. We do give them opportunities, and we do like to train writers as well, because it really does pay off, you know, to have talent grow from like the bottom up of the pyramid and get to the top. Within the team then, next we have 2 of our strategists and managers. They oversee what the content is for each and every brand. Again, there are the teams, the brands are divided between the 2 of them, and they see to it that, you know, the tone of voice that we were talking about constantly, coordinating with SEO, coordinating regularly with the account managers to see that you know, the teams that they're managing, the brands that they're managing are working out well. If there is any escalation on any brand, they handle that. I had the content team. So what I do is they report to me, both the senior strategists, and I oversee all the brands as much as possible when there is a requirement. And at the same time, I think what I've also been trying to do recently is we work with a lot of other teams. Like, of course, we work regularly with SEO, we work, you know, regularly with the web and tech, but we also work with a lot of other teams at Schbang. So I've been like looking at some work with motion pictures. We do a lot of scripts with them, which is something we've just started. We're also working with Schbang Theta to create branding content. So those are the projects that I handle directly or I head directly, and I'm trying to see that, you know, the writers who are interested in collaborating with some such other teams, including solutions, get the opportunities to do that. So, you know, the whole creative question that you were mentioning, I think content is fairly lucky. The possibilities are huge. Yeah. So, you know, you start off and then depending on what you're interested in, we can just take it up from there.
Got it. So you have content writers, you have senior and junior content writers who are involved in the day-to-day execution of things. Yeah. They work with the client and largely work with the internal teams on delivering the content that's there. You have then the content managers or the content strategists who are driving the overall agenda for what needs to go out on the platform. So they're the guys who are actually doing the proofreading. They are working alongside the SEO team and coming up with the titles or the topics for that particular month. And they're doing the reporting part of it on how that particular piece of content is performing. And then there's you who sort of driving the overall content division. Coming to just want to speak a bit more on the content front. What is when someone is if someone is joining your content team right now, whether it be at a writer level or at a strategist level, what would your advice be in terms of the kind of process that they should follow before they take on a brand?
I think do a lot of research. Like Mrugang said, research is extremely important when you're writing for a brand. Read everything about the brand. Even, you know, not just website or their blogs. Go and click on news. See where the brand has been relevant in the last few years, what they've been doing, what has been a trend for them, what has worked for them. See their social media pages. We're not a solutions team, but I think it's really important to understand what the brand is doing on a day-to-day basis, which is again something that you can only know from social. Try and see what is being spoken about the brand. So, you know, go on to, you know, Quora, or go on to all these different like forums that you have online, off page. See what people are, you know, what conversations are going on around the brand, positive, negative, because you never know, there could be any opportunity at any given point where we could change the course of that conversation. So I think that's again very important. I think research, if you ask me. So do your homework before you get onto a brand, and once you're on the brand, don't slack away from it. Continue to do that. So, you know, and try and then get more interaction with the client. Try and, you know, see what the client's perspective is, where they want to take the brand, or try and explain your perspective, because there could be a lot of times like we have writers who want to do more for the brand. You know, they're like, we're only doing ABC, but we want to do D&E from our end. We want to do that bit more. So that's great. So go and, you know, we give you, that's the reason we give you, you know, that freedom to have client interactions, so that you can go and have that conversation. And that's also a great opportunity to again show your creativity to the client. That this is the extra bit we can do.
Got it. You know, Bhumi touched upon this earlier, and you mentioned that content is not only about writing a blog, and you mentioned that, you know, if there's a festival coming up or if there's an event coming up for something, you don't only necessarily need to write a blog. What are the various types of content buckets, if I had to call it? What are the various kind of content buckets that someone could explore? So one is of course writing the blogs, but what else could a content writer do with their brand in this space?
So like I think Aditya mentioned, there are some mandates, like, you know, say for example, footer content or banners or product website descriptors. Content, So obviously website is one of the, again, like this is all part of website content. What more can you do? You can again plug in suggestions. You can, you know, you can
come up with quizzes. You can come up with an interactive blog quiz, which is actually answering questions.
So we're doing that for Wipro actually. So Wipro, we've made this Wipro shower gel store, which is which is something we've worked on, and we're working on their blog. So that was one of the things we suggested to them, that we want to do interactive quizzes because shower gels are just so much fun, right? Everyone has their own choice. You can just really play around with the content. Another thing that we suggested was that we are suggesting to a lot of clients currently is UGC content, content written by experts. So that is where the whole X factor comes in into your content. Like, why would you want to read something about, advice on what, like how your skin looks or how your skin can get better from just any unknown person, right? You'd rather read from an expert. Same way for Saffola, we've started creating UGC content based on heart health, where we have real people sharing their heart stories, talking about how they overcame like, adversities, or they overcame like a heart issue, and they're doing like fabulously well in life now. They're leading very, very healthy lives. So again, inspiring real life stories. And again, this is like great, it's shareable content as opposed to just SEO focused content.
I'd like to add to what you're saying. So for BBland, this is what we're doing is we have a certain set of questions we put out on the social media, basically on their Instagram. BBland has a lot of shampoos and conditioners, basically hair care, and that's the product they're into. So what we do is, put out certain questions on Instagram stories and ask people to choose what their hair concerns are. And basis that, we have a lot of long form content going out, and we also have expert opinions on those content. Like we have Aduna, we have the experts from the brand side writing and replying to those concerns. So that creates a connect with the consumer, because they see Instagram is something people are on every day. So how do you leverage that? And especially because Schbang handles all sides of marketing, right? So how do you leverage that into making sure your content that you're putting out on the website gets that traction, is relevant, people want to read it. So these are various situations we come up with to make it more interesting.
Got it. So from a perspective of like SEO actually, so how does the structure in the SEO team work then? What does somebody who joins the SEO team do on a daily basis, for example?
So there are multiple tasks when it comes to SEO.
So Mrugang, if you can first take us through what is the structure of the SEO team, maybe not even all, just like what are the SEO, is there an SEO executive manager? Maybe you can, so what are the different people involved in it and what is the role they play?
Yeah. So in the SEO team we have a senior manager, we then have a couple of managers reporting into him, and these managers, strictly SEO team, they have senior execs and execs.
Okay.
So all of this entire team together, they one like exec, senior manager, exec, senior exec, manager, and a senior manager together. They work on multiple brands. Like one team works on like a couple of brands.
Okay.
So that is the structure overall. But like, so that is the SEO team. But when we work with the client on a brand with the content team, we have account managers helping us like be seamless in our communication internally and with the client. So that is the structure. And as far as what we do on a daily basis, there's a lot of technical. So in a website, when it comes to SEO, there is technical aspect of the website where where page speed is very important, and how the website is loading on mobile versus desktop, that is important. So there is technical aspects to look at. A, B, there is like on our own website, if there is new content coming in on a monthly basis, we have the on-page things that we have to do, and with every blog that goes out, it links to multiple product pages, internal other blogs. So all of that is like, all of that happens. A lot of time goes into competition analysis, because each and every brand has at least 2-3 immediate brand competition, and then there are like content side competition which may be ranking for our keywords, not necessarily brands. So a lot of time goes into like understanding what those guys are doing, like what, as it was said before, what keywords they are targeting, what kind of content they are writing, not only that, what kind of links they are getting. If they are getting the links, they are getting the links from like campaigns that they are working on, or are they getting links because their content is so good that someone feels like linking back to them. documenting all of that, putting structure to all of those things is what we do on a daily basis.
Got it.
Along with, and it's SEO, right? It's a funny business because Google can come up with any kind of update, and it does. Twice a year they have major updates, right? So if something goes down, diving into the entire thing, diving into the Google Search Console to understand what what keywords have got affected, and if there are any warnings from Google, if there is a if there's a hack that has happened on the server, if analyzing all of this, it really takes a lot of time to look at all those different aspects individually. So all of that is what we do on a daily basis.
So it's the SEO executives that are actually doing the on-page, the off-page, and the technical audit and implementation.
Yes, a lot of groundwork. Yes.
A lot of the groundwork. The SEO managers are essentially keeping an eye on competition and then giving direction to the executives in terms of the change in direction that needs to happen based on how competition is changing.
Correct.
And of course, overlooking the entire strategy of ensuring that the strategy planned out with the client is being implemented.
Correct. And we are an agency, and as Bonsi earlier said, we have different kind of clients, right? So one client might be a client which has multiple international pages. So his that particular client's SEO is slightly different than if you were just an e-commerce site with, let's say, 20, 30, 40, 50 products. There the SEO is a little different, and then we have a lot of budget constraints. So how do we get links for these brands? How do we plan content for them? All of that is what we do on a daily basis.
Got it. So there's a team of executives and managers that work together, and they work on a set of, let's say, 4 or 5 clients together at a time?
No, 3 max.
3 max.
Max 3. Each of our team works.
And each one is focused on that particular client.
Absolutely. So a manager might have 4 clients maximum. 2 senior execs, for example, might have 2 brands each. And then there will be a couple of, depending on the size of the brand, there will be 1 or 2 junior execs, who will be helping with a lot of taking the report out, giving their 2 cents. Then it goes to the senior exec. He looks at it and he reports it to the manager, which then before going to the client, most of the times it goes through us, the senior management. We take a look if there's any feedback needed. Most of the times, account managers and managers do their thing. They know their thing very well.
Right.
So they are the guys running the show, and I'm the guy who is just managing things here.
So there's a lot of deep focus work that is required from the SEO guys, because they're not working on, let's say, the executives are not working on 5-6 accounts. They're working on 2 accounts, and they're expected to then say, hey, you know what, let's deep dive into every aspect of SEO for these 2 accounts.
And because they have help, right, at every level, it's not that they are lost. We have for the last couple of months or month, every week one of our managers is taking in-depth trainings of how, for example, Google My Business, what's it all about. We had a training lasted for 1.5 hours day before yesterday. Smith took that training. So we had another training that was done the week before. So a lot of learning, a lot of and the thing is that it's slow, learning, understanding and growing. And the execs are at ease because they don't get slapped. For example, slapped is I don't mean slap, but they don't get metaphorically, they don't get scolded or they don't have to bear the pressure if something goes wrong, because the guy above him and the manager above him are the ones who will be taking the responsibility. And when things don't work out for them, they don't understand what has happened. They are the ones who actually say that, okay, you need to look into this and take care of this. So
keeping the hierarchy aside, even though there is a hierarchy, I being a SEO junior SEO executive as well, I can take up other opportunities within the SEO team.
Absolutely.
Right? I can always come to you and say, you know what, Mrugang, I want to do this. This is something I would like to do. Then do I become client facing at that point of time? Or
so even the exec is also always client facing.
Okay, got it.
All the team members are client facing. It's just that we have this hierarchy in place in terms of the experience and seniority in the space, and in terms of complaint escalations.
Got it.
So otherwise we work as a team, like, you know, we sit together, we work together. It's just that from the client's end, I'm not of the opinion that, you know, the execs should get, like, you know, beating from the client just because something did not go right. So we have like those hierarchy in place only for that. Otherwise, we can work at, like, we can take up any task.
But I think that's a great thing about the work culture generally at Schbang. Like, everyone is reachable, and, you know, everyone is approachable, and there is no hierarchy in terms of approachability.
Your point of view, so I've been with Schbang for a couple of months, and a very, very good observation is it doesn't matter you're an intern or you head certain departments, but your voice will be heard. If you have a certain idea, you always have the right to even directly say to the client. It's never like, oh, you're just an intern, you cannot say this, you cannot do this. Everyone's point of view is considered, heard, and a lot of times even executed if it's feasible and if it's viable. So I think growth is something that that's definite, that comes with any role that you take up at Schbang.
Got it. So now that we have spoken about SEO, we have spoken about how content teams are also structured. Now moving a little bit to the account management teams. How are you guys structured? Are you divided into like e-commerce websites in general? How do you guys structure your teams? And do I need experience to come in, like with some e-commerce website experience, to join the e-commerce team, or do I learn on the job too?
So I'll start with this. So every account manager has 4 teams under them, depending on what services the client is availing. So if I have a client which is taking up website maintenance, content, SEO and direct marketing, I look into all 4, because that's what comes under business transformation. Second point where you touched upon, what experience I should have. So I remember when I was interviewing for this role, Sohil told me that think of this as your own small company, because I also have a background of having my own startup. What we look into is not just strategy, marketing strategy, we also look into finances. We also have certain targets that we have every year that we need to meet, which is our revenue target. We also have a lot of coordination, and to make sure that our communication goes out as one cohesive approach. It's not broken. That's what an account manager does. It brings all these 4 departments together, because it honestly gets very difficult for someone like Bonzi and Mragang to get into the nitty-gritties of it for every client. Each team has some 20-30 clients. For them to overlook all of that gets very, very, very difficult. So that's when an account manager comes into picture, where strategy is looked into, where they make sure that all marketing departments work together. So that's what we do very, very closely. But we also get into sometimes we just feel like, okay, you know, this is something can be done better, or we have an opinion about, okay, how can we do this? So I sit with either the content team or the email marketing team, saying that, okay, this is something that I have in mind, how do we go about executing it? So you're not just coordinating, because in Sohil's language, that's something even a monkey can be trained to do, but it's making sure you understand what the client wants, making sure your teams execute that, but also bringing your perspective. I think both of us come with an experience of at least 6 to 7 years in the industry, so we know what works, what doesn't work, and what we can add on to the entire approach that we have.
Got it.
So actually, to kind of structure what you said, I had a similar thing in mind, but just to put a structure to it, there are 3 things to it basically. One is where you're managing the team.
Correct.
You're leading the team, you are setting priorities, you are ensuring that deliverables are going on time.
Correct.
But at the same time, you're also facing the client, facing the brunt of it actually, and you are managing the expectations, you're understanding what their requirements are, what their goals are, and then driving the team towards it. But at the same time, you are also managing yourself. You are trying to strategize, you're trying to work on your tasks, you're trying to get a lot of done.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, so I think it's a combination of these 3 things that as an account manager we do on a day-to-day basis actually.
And to be an account manager, I feel one very, very important quality that was again something that Sohil had told us is always you're as good as your team. So always make sure your team is working on their strengths. If there are certain weaknesses, the best part is there are various courses, even if it's not available outside, Schbang has them. Schbang Academy, plugging in that here. There are certain learnings that Schbang gives people who are working at Schbang to make sure they grow even as marketers. So it's about making sure your team is at their optimum best. It's optimizing the strengths of your team.
Just to add to what these two guys said, it's just like you need to know your stuff.
Right.
You cannot not know about direct marketing because as Aditya said, if shit goes down, you are the first in the line of fire, right? And you cannot be, oh wait, I'll pass on the message and let the experts say what they have to say. It doesn't work that way. We deal with really big brands in various industries in our country, and those guys are like busy people, and these guys, they come, as they said, they come with the experience of 6-7 years. You need to know about SEO.
Got it.
You're not an expert at one thing, you're a jack of all trades.
But just at least the basics, so at least you can answer.
Making sure that we know what's going on.
So because being able to A, understand what the problem is, B, kind of just to cool the temper down, for example, when shit hits the fan, have an interim response. Saying, okay, I get what is happening. I see this is ABC can be the 3 reasons, but let me get back to you with the.
It's like a buffer between everything going down the drain.
I think their people management skills need to be on.
So I think for account managers, they're at the helm of everything, and they're controlling.
Straddling
these four elements of the website. So everything that's revolving around the website, that's what they're actually responsible for, which is why they need to have those people management skills. They need to be able to work and make 2 different teams work together and plug in the 2 different teams at the right time at the right moment. There's no saying, okay, let me only get this team on the call and then sort of get another team and then get this team. So 1, they need to have people management skills. 2, they need to be great with their analytics and insights, because if they need to talk to a client and if they need to get something out of the client and if they need to build a relationship with the client, they need to know about the brand or try to know about the brand as much as the client does. So they need to be on top of it, and they need to know what's happening, what their consumers are doing, what kind of database are we capturing. Bonsi brought up about, hey, we're doing a quiz with one of the brands where we're capturing that database, or the website team is doing some on-site engagement where we're capturing a database. So they're sort of plugging in and saying, hey, the website team's actually capturing this database. Let me take it back to the direct marketing team and say, hey, we've captured this database which is purely based on this campaign. So let's do some sort of work to this database purely based on this kind of based on the database that we captured, based on this segment that we've captured. So they're sitting at the helm of things, and they're actually driving the conversation. And Aditya and Bhumi, because you guys are sort of sitting at the helm of things, what would you say is one of the how do you ensure that you get the best out of your client? What are some of the suggestions and tips for someone who is either coming into your role or either sort of progressing into your role or wants to progress into your role? What are the must-haves, or what are some of the traits that they should have?
So there's no hard and fast rule about clients being assigned only to a particular team basis their nature. It depends on us as our strengths, but it's an open field. And it does not have to be as such that you need to know e-commerce to get into Schbang or into a particular team. Like I said, it's a mix already. So for example, my team handles 2 e-commerce accounts, but at the same time there is 1 account which is purely branded, and in fact it's diverse in a sense that there's a Shopify website, there's a WordPress website, there is a Psycho website, there was a Drupal website. So there were different CMSs playing at the same time. So there is no one formula to get here. in fact,
and also, sorry, I'm cutting you.
Yeah.
It also helps account managers understand different forms of website that's there. So our approach is never the same, because we're working on different things. So it's always a very a personal approach that we give, because we also, even as account managers, get to learn about different forms of website, different ways of putting your content out or your information out on the website as well.
Got it.
Yeah. So more than having a forte, I would say the willingness to actually learn and understand the website and the different brands and their account, that comes into play a lot more than just knowing one thing, because as account managers, you are not a master of one thing, you are at everything.
You're a jack of
all trades.
Yeah.
Got it.
So literally you are a jack of all trades, and you need to know a little bit of everything and tie it all together. So there's no hard and fast, at least as an account manager level. Even as web strategists, you are managing all of this, so there's nothing like that.
Question to all of you guys. For someone joining either the content team, SEO team, or someone who is coming into the account management role or wanting to progress into the account management role, what are the what are the must-have traits that one should have at Schbang? Can start with probably Bonsi. You.
Sure. So, like I mentioned, I think your basic grammar skills, your grammar has to be on point. If the second, I think, would be a working knowledge at least of SEO. If you don't have it, that's fine. But I think if you apply and you are on board, I think before you join, there is always a certain time gap. Try and learn something about SEO. Try and do a bit of reading and research there. I think the third very important thing is, like I mentioned, read, and I cannot emphasize that enough. I think that's extremely important. So for me, it would be these three, and obviously the right attitude, the willingness to learn and grow.
Speaking from account management?
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe there are a lot of skills in play here, but absolutely must have would be analytics and building strategy basis the analytics. I mean, interpretation of the data that you get, because without that you won't be able to grow yourself or the account or the brand.
Understand where the brand
is at right now,
correct.
how we can reach to the goals. If you don't understand that, what's the point?
Yeah.
You're not leading anything, and in the end that is how you will lead the team. So that's where you come to the second point, where you have to be extremely good at leading teams.
Leadership qualities, correct.
Because if you are spending time in doing your own stuff and you've not delegated the responsibilities of others, the work has stopped. It has stopped at you. It has not gone to the next person, and it's not getting done. So delegation, managing the team is extremely important over here. After that, it would come again to the clients, managing the expectation, managing
also setting the right expectations is so important. Sometimes we get carried away with everything the client's saying, but also being honest with them, saying that this is something that would work and not work. So setting the right expectations and knowing what your team is capable of.
Exactly. I mean, like, the client will always push. The client will always push for a shorter deadline, for faster work, for cheaper costs, whatever you think of. But you're the one who will have to put a stop to it, that this has to be it, I can't go below that.
I also feel it's important to understand the nitty-gritties that go into each of these services. Like, I know when email marketing, even though I'm an account manager, I know what goes at an execution level. So tomorrow, if I know someone from my team is not available, I can just go and do it myself. Or if there is an issue at some point of thing, I know what to pick on. So also knowing the process of each team and understanding what is more important, and I think prioritizing what needs to be done before. But of course, understanding the process is something that we should be aware of, even if probably we don't know the execution. Understanding what developers do, understanding what a UI or UX designers do, understanding what my strategist does. Because if I didn't know what they did, I wouldn't know how to overlook that.
It's like you should be able to at some level perform their job. At least.
Correct.
Yeah, even the minutest, even the web strategist level, web executive level, or SEO executive level, you need to have the experience, or at least maybe sometimes lend a hand.
Correct.
That's when you understand what
Yeah.
they are doing,
Yeah.
what is the kind of experience they're
Yeah.
having. That's very important.
Yeah.
That comes to my mind right now. Anything else I'll tell.
And Mrigank, what about you?
From the SEO point of view, it's very important that the keyword planning is done, like keyword research and keyword planning. I mean, the person knows that very well. Second is the technical aspects of things, the technical SEO things, like someone needs to understand them decent enough to like, you know, share recommendations basis that. And third would be like, you know, grammar. Grammar is really important. So having like all these three, and fourth, as I said before, understanding of the tools, analytic tools of Google Search Console, they are very important.
Got it. Great. That sounds like an amalgamation of what somebody should come with in terms of joining Schbang, especially irrespective of you joining SEO team, the account management or the website management team or the content marketing team. I think these skills, the kind of conversations we have driven today really helps the people wanting to join and the people who have joined us or in the process of joining us understand their jobs better. So thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Awesome.